So My Hero Academia episode 2 for season 2 has arrived, and I have to say we're getting right into the swing of things with this arc. I know some people were a little iffy with the amount of recap, which I didn't think there was that much recap myself with last week. I think it was like only 5 minutes to be total. This episode, I thought it blended both the kind of more action and just more intense content with the second half quite well with the first half, with more of the characterization and the final bits of setup for this sports festival. Because we get to see a lot. I mean, our main character here, he's kind of questioning what he's kind of fighting for, as he's kind of taking a look at all the individual characters, what they're fighting for. Even Bakugo himself has his own new resolve. He definitely seems different than when he was in the first season here, with his more asshole-ish nature, but also that kind of he would laugh in people's faces. He's no longer doing that. He's just set on being the #1 hero. So you're getting to see a bit with the main character here, with Deku trying to figure out like what he needs to do. He can't just be a kid, everyone's watching him, and he's trying to get that resolve. So when you get into the second half of the episode, I thought it was rather damn good, because this is literally starting off the kind of sports festival with an obstacle race. And generally an obstacle race, that's not going to be that interesting, but because we're dealing with all these different superheroes, it makes it rather damn interesting. I mean, we literally start the race off with a giant ice flash across the field here, which I've heard actually that the ice guy who can do both ice and fire attacks, I forget his name, apparently he's going to have some badass moments in this season, which I'm pretty damn excited for, because he has a cool set of powers, so it's really cool to see that he's going to get a bit more spotlight, because you really didn't get to know him in season 1, so I'm really interested to see what they do, because the way they end this episode, it looks like we're going to have a bit of action next week. I mean, we literally are fighting off against the robots we fought in season 1 when they were first getting into the academy, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see if Deku himself is able to use any sort of his All Might's power, because literally we've seen him able to use it successfully when he was protecting other people, but every time he's used it, he's literally shattered his arm, his foot, like whatever he uses it on in terms of his body part, he like literally destroys his body part. So it's going to be interesting, because I'm wondering if he has some sort of plan or something like that he's going to be able to successfully do maybe a miniature version of an attack just to be able to get away and impress the crowd. Because I think the way they're setting this up is I do think we're going to see some pretty epic shit with our main character being able to use his powers. He could completely fail, because this is still early on in his career of becoming a great hero. We know he's going to become a badass hero eventually, but I think the way they're handling it, I think we're going to at least see one epic moment with him and his power used successfully, I think next episode. Maybe this will completely be false and he'll completely fail and you'll need to rely on some of the other heroes, but I think just the way they're setting this up, I think it's quite possible we might get a badass like attack or something that is successful and doesn't completely shatter his body. But I really did like this episode, mainly because we didn't just jump right into the obstacle race. We finish up the overall building up to this festival, which some people may not be a fan of, but I thought just seeing the other classes literally looking in on this main class, because as far as they can see, like, they're the biggest threat that they have at this sports festival, so they literally have to kind of scope them out. So it's interesting to see the overall, just the other characters they're going to have to compete against, and to see all the individual characters resolve before we jump into the first part of this sports festival, which is the obstacle race. And I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how the obstacle race progresses, because generally those types of like just episodes aren't that interesting, but because this is a supernatural obstacle race, it's going to be rather interesting. I think we're going to get a bit of action, but it's going to be also interesting to see how the other characters mess with the others, as we got a bit of that with this episode, seeing just the ice and how other characters were reacting, like that one guy who can like throw his hair or whatever and then he bounces around, who just had some pretty funny facial reactions. So it's going to be cool to see how they finish off the obstacle race and how long that's going to like last for. And I do have a question. I don't want to know spoilers for this obstacle race, but how many episodes do you think it's going to take until they finish the obstacle race and move on to the second part of this sports festival? I'm really interested to hear if it's going to be a couple of episodes or if it's going to end next episode. I'd really be interested to hear, because I mean, we could literally have 6 episodes of an obstacle race, and as long as they keep it interesting, I'm on board with it. But I thought just overall with the presentation, I mean, you did have a couple of the wider shots that were a little iffy, but I think because of this kind of comic book feel it gives with the art and animation, it never really looks that bad. In fact, it always looks rather good, so even when it is a mediocre shot in terms of a distant shot, it always looks damn good. And I think this is going to be a really cool season. I mean, obviously, it's not going to be the entire season of Sports Festival. We're going to have a second arc later on, but I think just because we're getting right back in the swing of things, My Hero Academia has always been this classic shonen that feels like it's executed properly. So to have like a sports festival, I'm so happy, and I just can't wait to see what they do with the obstacle race next week. But I'm really interested to hear, how are you enjoying the adaptation from My Hero Academia Season 2? Is it really good, or are they deviating from the source material a bit to make it a bit better for the anime? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, and before you leave, hit that like button to show your support. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. So until next time everyone, please take care and have a good one.